Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the second of 3 road courses this season, the 60 Minutes of Mid-Ohio at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in the RevLimit Workshop Development Series presented by DesignPing. My name is Alayton Norgard. Joining me is William White as race control and Nick Masse manning the cameras. How's it going, guys?
Doing good. Ready for yet another road course. As you mentioned, 2 of 3. This is one of the series that tends to go to the most road courses in a season, as well as the most different road courses. We tend to be quite adventurous down in the development series. So first trip to Mid-Ohio for a short while for Alayton. We've seen it in all 3 series at some point, but it's not somewhere we regularly go to. But we're going to have a quick look at the starting grid now.
Starting on the 4D Raceware pole is Gavin Hibbs, backing up his reputation as a bit of a road merchant here in the ARCA series. Sean Leisure on the outside pole, second place. Caleb Becumer in third. Cale Pocock in fourth. Austin and Nabnett in fifth. Dylan Javier in sixth. In seventh is Alec Daffin. Eighth is Corey Abbott. Harrison Talon in ninth. Gavin Higgins in 10th. Justin Vandermeer in 11th. And Michael Hossack in 12th. In 13th, we've got Jay Connor. 14th, Dominic Wright. Joe Francis in 15th. Jacob Adams in 16th. Will, how about you finish us out 17th on back?
Yeah, 17th and 18th, Frank Foti and Dave Carpenter. Chris Albrecht and Connor Thompson round out P19 and P20. Andrew Hardcastle, 21st. Josh Clark, Kentucky winner in 22nd. Mitch Javier in 23rd. Sean Judson, 24th. And Miguel Carrera, the last guy to set a lap time, in 25th. We're now green here at Mid-Ohio. It's a good start for Gavin Hibbs.
And that's a tricky place to start here with that final corner.
Oh,
Hibbs already off into the sand, gravel. Dropping all the way back into 15th and falling. That is not the start he's looking for. I didn't quite see what happened with him, but that puts Sean Leisure up into the lead.
Thinking about I left the brake magic on, looked to just completely straight line it. Miscue his braking marker for the first corner. Sean Leisure comes on the radio saying, I really hope that was netcode. Gavin Hibbs replies, I can't exactly say what he did, but he stepped on his own something or other, and that is why he finds himself back just inside the top 20. So yes, not the start that Gavin Hibbs would have wanted. Sean Leisure now in the lead.
Taking a look at the replay here, and yeah, he cuts across in front of Sean Leisure, and I guess he probably just tried to brake a little bit too late, got on the brakes a little too hard, and just kind of loses it off into the grass.
Yeah, that is it's always tricky on road courses and to a lesser extent on ovals as well, readjusting brake markers solely for the purpose of starts and restarts. You obviously can brake a little bit later, you're taking not as much speed into the corner. So you have a wreck on the final corner apparently.
And just had
Alec Daffin.
Austin and Nabnett get in the back of the 3 of Alec Daffin. Went through the second to last corner.
Doesn't block the track as such though. Daffin and Higgins both do go off, but everyone is back rolling.
With Gavin Hibbs going off on turn 1, that kind of set Alec Daffin struggling a bit into that corner again, gets into Austin and his teammate Frank Foti.
Oh, Frank's not happy.
Goes off the corner as well. Not having a good time out Daffin is with the Lake Norman guys right now.
That's obviously Tyler 30 Mono fronting the repair bill for that, so he won't be too happy seeing his cars getting roughed up on the big screen. One driver from Lake Norman who isn't doing too bad, though, we've got on our cameras right now, Caleb Pacuma sits 2 seconds off the lead, sitting in P3. I did get passed by Kel Pocock, who now sits in P2, pressuring Sean Leisure. Caleb had a good solid run in the last road course, got a top 5 finish there. He's proved to be quite proficient at the road courses, won at Watkins Glen last season, and in this season is looking to bounce back from what was a quite tumultuous race at Motegi, one that he was set to at least contend for the win for, but was taken out in an incident not of his own making. So this is very much a rebounding race for Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb tends to run pretty well at these road courses. He's been in contention for the win, and I mean, all of the ones that I can remember, honestly. The Red Bull Ring this season, Watkins Glen last season. He's kind of continuing to show what he can do here. With Gavin Hibbs falling back on that first lap, that kind of makes this a bit more interesting of a question, I think. We still need to do race picks now that we're on lap 3. Will, who do you like for this win? Will is muted. Nick, we'll start with you then. Before Will comes back, I'm going to go ahead and claim Gavin Hibbs. I think he still will be able to come back for this win. He is back up into 6th place after falling back to almost 20th after going off on turn 1. But definitely have more of a race over the next 60 minutes, 55 minutes now, than we started off with. Sounds like we had a penalty get applied. We'll hear from Will when he gets back on what happened with that. And just, here he is. Will, want to let us know what just happened?
Yeah, I was looking, I have obviously my camera focused on the focus on crashes just so I can keep a better tab on any incidents that might occur. My camera did pick up an incident between Mitch Chevier and Josh Clark. So I was like just going into one of those, into the more technical section of the track. Josh Clark just a little bit too late on the brake. See Michael Harsack facing the wrong direction. That's a precarious place to be parked. Not blocking the track as such. We'll just be able to wait for these cars to clear by. He does so nice and safely. But yeah, Josh Clark just too late on the brake. Garrett braked himself, got into the back of Mitch, and the 58 had quite a banged up right rear after the fact. So as you see here, Michael Harsack and Gavin Hibbs. Harsack just drops it, coming out of the keyhole there. But a first tally for severe damage was issued to the 28 of Josh Clark.
Michael Harsack almost got on the gas there, trying to get back straight a little too early. Good thing he got back on the brakes there. He would have pulled right out in front of multiple cars, and that would have been a significant incident. So good job to him for recognizing that and having some patience after a bit of a self-spin there. I watched it happen live, and from the chase cam of Gavin Hibbs, it almost looked like he gave a little tap to Harsack's bumper, but that was not the case as we saw in the replay.
Yeah, it's super frustrating when you have that sort of incident at a road course where you know that the likelihood is you will not get a yellow to help you, you know, reset like you would on an oval. So you become increasingly more eager to get your foot back on the gas and to get yourself back in the race. You want to get that car turned around, point in the right direction again, but you know, and too often sometimes that can happen where a car just too eager pulls out in front of a group and the incident becomes 100 times worse. So good patience, good awareness from Michael Harsack. You can obviously see how eager he was as Gavin Higgins gets past Jacob Adams there. Chris Albrecht off into the daisies there. But yeah, good awareness from Michael Harsack to see the danger coming and to let that stream of cars by, as much as it would have been quite painful for him, I'm sure.
So Will, while you were muted dealing with your race control duties, we had done some race picks. Nick chose Justin Vandermeer in the 80. I went with Gavin Hibbs still, despite his early drop. Who do you like for this win?
I honestly, based on his run in Austria and the pace he is still showing at this early stage, it's not quite as fast as Hibbs. And I don't hit the same pick as you. So I will go for our current leader, Sean Leisure in the 49 to get it done today. I think his pace just about good enough to hold off the likes of Kel Pocock for at least the first part of this race, and Hibbs will have a harder time getting past the likes of Caleb Pakuma and Kel Pocock when he does get there, so that will slow his progress somewhat. And I think Sean Leisure is good enough to at least get to the pit stops and potentially use some strategy to get him the rest of the way. So 49 is going to be my pick.
Yeah, before that first lap incident with Hibbs, I was going to pick Leisure because I didn't want to go for the obvious of the pole sitter. But with as far back as he dropped, it's a bit more of an interesting prediction game here. Based on practice times, Gavin was around a half second faster than just about anyone else. So if he can maintain that over a run, I think he has a pretty solid chance to get back up to the lead. He is 5.5 seconds back. Still, he is back up into fourth after dropping as far as he did, but definitely still has some work to do to get back up into the lead. Definitely been a more active race than I might have expected. Oh, I haven't almost lost it in turn one right there, but hey, hung on to it. More of an active race than I expected necessarily. This is a pretty loose setup. It's based on the Watkins Glen setup with a changed rear gear to match the straights here. But guys were definitely having some issues with how loose it was, talking about moving the brakes forward as the run went on to keep it under control. The last third or so of the lap is kind of a question mark of what gear you want to run in between first and second. Both of them can kind of work. It's going to be a question of what they're comfortable with. Possibly sticking with second gear to protect those rear tires, keep you from getting too much wheel spin, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people do and how that affects their speed as this race continues.
Yeah, I think in terms of early pace, as Justin Vandermeer's gone around just by Thunder Valley there, and he's going to lose a few spots for his trouble's going to get that Rebel Chevrolet back going again, but not what he needed, as he was having a solid run well inside the top 10 there was the Canadian. He's going to drop to P13 after that little spin, but the car remains undamaged, apart from probably some bruised tires. I'm sure he can get back out there and try and regain those positions that he lost. But yeah, early pace is definitely Gavin Hibbs, I would say, chief among them. You see now he's less than 5 seconds behind Sean Leisure and closing in faster in some sections of the racetrack. He's definitely setting the pace as of right now, but Leisure and Pocock are definitely also two very quick cars that will not make it easy for Hibbs should he get there, and I think that is something they're going to have to consider now. With 10 minutes gone in this race, they will start to feel the degradation in performance, especially in the rear tyres, as is usual in these stock cars. When you have these low speed corners that you try and power out of as best you can, it is often the case that your rear tyres will wear a lot quicker than your fronts, and if you don't take care of them, you can end up sliding throughout most of the lap. So will be interesting to see how drivers manage that. You mentioned the gears, obviously letting through these technical sections, first and second gear. Obviously second gear gives you less wheel spin, less revs, can preserve the life of those rear tyres, but whether it's outright faster remains to be seen. But judging by the general lack of spins, in terms of acceleration spins we're seeing in that technical section, I'm willing to bet that a lot of these drivers are actually electing for second gear, with it being not too much slower in terms of pace, while also being a lot more comfortable for the rear tyres and in terms of generally controlling the car.
Yeah, and I do want to point out Kel Pocock. He has there was a bit more of a gap between him and Sean Leisure. He's closed that up to about half a second. He's kind of pulled away from Caleb Pekumer, he was a lot closer to than Sean Leisure a few laps ago. But we'll want to see if he can make a pass happen on Sean Leisure for the lead. Up until the last lap, Cale Pocock did actually have the fastest lap. Gavin Hibbs did just take that by about 1/10 of a second on this most recent lap that they completed. Just the only car to break into the 125s was Gavin Hibbs in that last lap. Cale Pocock having a 126.085 as his fastest.
So Gavin Hibbs setting the pace, as we would expect with his qualifying and practice times, but isn't dusting the field in terms of lap times as we might have expected. After his lap 1 spin, we were obviously expecting him to come back through the field quickly, and he has done. He still remains only 4 seconds off the lead, is now right on the back of Caleb Pekumer, and I'm sure will be looking to make that move sooner rather than later. Pulls to the outside here, going into turn 2, known as the keyhole. Pekumer goes defensive for the shorter distance around the track, but you see Gavin Hibbs going to pull a crossover now, going to get the better exit. These cars quite drafty. He'll tuck into the slipstream and will pull out presumably just after this right hand kink, and does so, pulls out again to drive his left. Pekumer defensive line once again, who's later on the brakes as there's a car off into the grass. Hibbs trying to go around the outside, turns into the inside for turn 4. He's going to make it work back up into P3.
Yeah, there are a lot of these complexes that just alternate left and right on this track. If you can hold on the outside through one of them, you have a pretty good shot of being able to complete that pass on the subsequent corner when you suddenly go from the outside to the inside, like we just saw with Gavin Hibbs. That corner at the end of the straight that we just saw him going side by side with Cale Pekumer into is one of the trickier corners on the track in my experience. There's not really a very good marker for where you want to brake for it, and it's a little bit of almost a blind corner. You're coming over a crest, coming up to it, and it's kind of falling away from you as you go into the corner. So it's very easy to misjudge and overshoot, like we saw the 17 of Colbert do just in front of those two as they were battling for that third place position.
Yeah, so Gavin Hibbs now I think is going to be a big beneficiary out of this in this fight with Caleb Pekumer that he just had. Obviously now able to get past the 59. He now has around 3 seconds of a clean air just behind Cale Pocock. He's going to use that, I'm sure, to his benefit. He definitely seems to be setting the pace at the moment in terms of lap time. It's now just a matter of getting to the back of these two leaders, Sean Leisure and Cale Pocock, and obviously executing the pass, but he's going to use this clean air to try and set some quick lap times while he's not got anyone in front of him to disrupt him. So expect to see that gap close quite quickly as Gavin Hibbs has really been setting the pace so far.
Yeah, Leisure has opened up a little bit more of a gap on Cale Pocock from the last time we were talking about it. Picked up about 3/4 of a second. Their times haven't really fallen off a whole lot. Still running mid 126s. Cale just broke into the 127s on that last lap. Definitely seeing a lot of wiggles on that rear end coming out of some of these corners, kind of showing that looseness, and potentially Cale pushing a little too hard at times to try and close up. As he gets real close, well, a lot closer through the keyhole, that hairpin, but that gap opens back up as they accelerate out of the corner kind of naturally. Cars will compress together in those slower speed sections as you kind of maintain the same kind of time gap distance between cars, but you're going slower, so the physical distance has to close up to keep that kind of matching up. Kind of, well, you understand that obviously, but just explaining for some of the non-drivers that might be watching, family members and whatnot. Kale has continued to close up this lap. We'll see if he can get back to Sean Leisure's bumper and try to make a pass. But Hibbs has closed up almost a second and a half in this last lap. He was 1.1 seconds faster than Kale last lap. Kale did gain quite a bit of speed back on this most recent lap, and but Gavin Hibbs did still maintain a significant pace difference, as evidenced by that gap continuing to close quite rapidly.
And elsewhere on the track, just earlier in this lap, I was obviously flicking between the live broadcast feed that you all see in front of you, as well as my own iRacing client. I switched back to iRacing to find Jay Connor on his side in the gravel, completely on his own, and then managing to get back going again. It was a bizarre incident through one of the most technical areas of the track here. You see him battling with Gavin Higgins, and this was a completely isolated incident, and he just flips in the gravel and ends up on his side, but manages to just keep going. That is possibly one of the most bizarre incidents I've ever seen. He didn't even lose a position, just lost time as he remained ahead of Connor Thompson. But that might be, I don't know about you, Alayton, that's probably one of the weirdest incidents I have ever seen in my life. We'll get another onboard view here.
Yeah, that's kind of lucky for him, honestly. With as far as his car went to the side, that it didn't go all the way over onto his roof and just strand him is a bit of a miracle. Typically, when the car goes in sideways into the gravel like that, it doesn't dig in and flip like you might see in real life. iRacing just doesn't quite. You don't see that in iRacing very often, so it's very interesting that happened.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something to do with the debris update that came a little while, whether they've actually updated the elements of the gravel itself, but I wouldn't think that would be the case. I think that's just some particularly exceptional circumstances. Obviously, these ARCA cars on the road courses tend to be raised a little bit higher on these bumpier courses to allow the front splitter some clearance, and that does mean that potentially that helped the car sort of turn over with a higher center of mass, but I don't think that tiny adjustment would have made it almost tip all the way over. But I'm sure Jay is counting his lucky stars to still be running in this race at all, let alone not having lost a spot in that incident. But 20 minutes now gone, so already a third of the race completed. And as you see on the track map there in the bottom right, it's Cole Bears having a bit of a problem up in sector 3 there. Gets back going again in the 17. But you see on the track map, a lot of drivers are already quite spaced out. The fight for the lead is quite close. You know, those three cars all within 1.3 seconds of one another and closing. But generally, even looking at the gaps on the left-hand side of your screen, not a lot of real hard battles going along here. So I think this is where the race is going to begin to calm down. Everyone's going to settle into their own individual pace. And I think we're now just waiting for pit stops.
Yeah, if you look at the track map, you can see clusters of cars, and it'll show the car number of the car at the front of each pack. The biggest cluster I see right now is kind of bottled up behind Frank Fodi in the 41. 4 or 5 cars in that group, just kind of running in the train right now. Jacob Adams, Dave Carpenter, and Chris Albrecht trailing behind. Not necessarily bumper to bumper at this point, but I'd imagine that they're definitely feeling a little bottled up behind Frank Fodi, but don't quite have the pace to make a pass happen. Meanwhile, up at the front, we do have Gavin Hibbs right on the bumper of Cale Pocock. Cale has also gotten right to the bumper of Sean Leisure. We're going to have a 3-way battle for the lead here, forming up here very shortly, I think. Unless Gavin is able to make a pass in these next couple of corners on Cale. Cale is not going to make it easy for him, though.
Cale will not make it easy, and you see the way he's been driving into the corner, particularly Cale Pocock has really been trying hard to get to the bumper of the number 49 and try and execute a pass. Sean Leisure with a little lock up there Kale Pocock and Gavin Hibbs managed to get by just fine there. Pocock's going to have the slipstream coming down this long back straight here. I don't know if he'll quite have the run. He is gaining, as you see in the top left, but he's going to get quite late on the brakes if he wants to make this move, decides against it. Gavin Hibbs, I think, almost got taken by surprise there. Didn't want to run into the back of the 6, of course, but all these 3 leaders now have converged on each other. Kale was catching Sean, Gavin's catching the pair of them, and while the race has calmed down through most of the pack here, this 3-way fight is only going to get more heated as we reach the halfway point.
If I'm Gavin Hibbs here, I'm going to be patient. You don't have to make the move in any big hurry. Honestly, I would almost go for a pit stop here rather than try and force a pass necessarily. These cars do have about 32 to 33 laps of fuel in the tank. We are 24-ish, 23 or 24 minutes into this run. Just started lap 17. It's going to be...
That's awkward.
Gavin Hibbs does go for the pass around the outside into the keyhole, actually. He does make that happen on Kale Pocock, so he is up into second place. I don't think he needs to go for a pass on pit strategy here. With the way that the field has mostly strung out, I think the risk of a caution has gone away. So a pit stop here now early wouldn't be that big of a risk, I don't think. If you're someone that's trapped behind another car, like I was talking about with Jacob Adams behind Frank Foti, his car goes off in front of the leaders there. Pierce Hauser in the 16. If you're behind another car that you can't quite pass, but you think you're faster than, it might be worth going for that pit stop and just getting some clean air in front of you to kind of run at the pace that you think you're capable of and make a track position that way. Gavin Hibbs looking to the inside of Sean Leisure there through these final couple corners of the lap. Does not quite get his nose in, but he can smell that lead. He's getting kind of hungry for it, I think.
Definitely, and Hibbs going to have a big run out of this first corner here, down the straight here. I do wonder if Sean Leisure is going to go defensive, or the Hibbs going to go late on the brakes. He's looking to the inside. Not quite this time. Leisure does shut the door, but Leisure's going to almost go around, almost drops into the braking zone, and Hibbs is going to get to the inside. Hibbs is going to squeeze him out. Hibbs does take the lead. Still only a tenth and a half between them. Leisure does have one last-ditch effort here. If he wants to get that position back, he's going to have to do it now into turn number 4, but does not quite get it done. Gavin Hibbs is going to retake the lead after having lost it at turn 1 less than half an hour later, back in front. And you'd have to expect, even with the slides and whatnot that he showed in the beginning of the race, the pace that he has demonstrated, you start to think he might pull away here, and it might become a fight for second between Sean and Cal here.
Yeah, I think what we saw with Gavin going into that hairpin is him putting his car to the inside to make Sean Leisure that he might go for that dive. I don't think he ever intended to, as we see Sean Leisure peel off to go down pit road for that early pit stop. I think he was just trying to intimidate Sean Leisure and force him into making a mistake, and it worked to perfection for him. Made that pass very easy. With how sideways Sean Leisure got, I am kind of amazed that he kept that car straight out of the corner. As Gavin Hibbs also gets a little sideways into the keyhole the next lap around without that pressure behind him, but not quite as sideways, still keeps it straight. And I think he is going to continue to pull away here, a second ahead of Kale Pocock. Kale has been second or third fastest. I mean, obviously, as he's been in the top 3, but Gavin won't be able to pull away from him quite as quickly as the rest of the field, but will definitely, I think, be able to open that gap up.
Yeah, definitely. But I am intrigued to see what Sean Leisure can do now, whether Gavin Hibbs will react to that. It was a brilliant move, of course, by Gavin Hibbs, kind of pressing the intimidate button, as it were, kind of the Fernando Alonso tactic, fake to the inside and force your rival into an error. It's an age-old road course racing tactic, and it's come into use again here at Mid-Ohio. Gavin Hibbs does not react, so I think Sean Leisure might be trying an undercut here. He currently sits 23 seconds and growing, actually, behind Gavin Hibbs. I do wonder if Sean is just waiting for those potentially cold tyres to start to warm up and give him the grip that he needs to start making time again on Gavin Hibbs. But neither Hibbs nor Pocock reacting to Leisure's pit stop at this moment. I think these guys are going to try and go along and have better tyre condition towards the end of the race and potentially re-overtake Sean Leisure that way if the 49 gets back out in front.
I did go back and check. Sean Leisure did not take tires. That was a fuel-only stop that he just made.
Ooh.
So I think what his goal there was just to have clean air to run in and not have to worry about Cale Pocock trying to make that pass happen behind him. Now he's got Andrew Hardcastle in front of him. Sorry, yeah, that is Andrew Hardcastle to lap down. So that's not going to be a particularly difficult pass for Sean to make. Definitely easier than trying to battle with Cale Pocock for second place.
Definitely interesting with the no tyre call, but I don't hate it. I know that these are ARCA cars, both in their old and new iterations, of obviously quite low powered. So typically what you struggle with on a road course, is less so than tyre wear, is tyre heat. But that's actually be good for Sean Leisure, obviously going down pit road, forced to travel at 45 miles an hour and then come to a stop for about 14-15 seconds, does mean your tyres will cool off quite significantly, as well as you having a quicker pit stop. Gavin Higgins there coming into turn number 3, and he goes around for a little loop-de-doop, as does another car going by him. I can't quite make out the number on the side of that machine, but two cars with some synchronized spinning going into one of the more difficult corners on the track there.
I think that might have been Sean Judson. I'm not 100% positive on that, but looks like a similar kind of paint as what we saw as Gavin Higgins went by. But yeah, going back to Sean Leisure and pitting, I was thinking that maybe he was going for fresh tires after the lockups and slides that we saw him make, getting his tires hot like that, but I guess he decided it was more valuable to have that shorter stop and just let them cool down on pit road like you mentioned.
We'll see if it pays dividends for him as to whether we see any split strategy and maybe Hibbs, Pocock, or either of those two. You know, they take tires. They'll lose a good chunk of time to Sean Leisure. Just after the pit stops, is of course Sean Leisure with a significantly quicker pit stop. But if, as Cale Pocock does come into the pits right now from second place, number 6 is on pit road. He is taking tyres, so that's where the split comes in. Cale will have far fresher tyres. Cold tyres coming out of the pits, yes, but they'll quickly rub themselves in and will give him a greater amount of performance, you would think. But unfortunately for him, Alec Daffin is just immersed in front of the 6. That's not what he needs. He'll want to
is a lap behind though.
3.
So 2 laps down, actually. Alec Daffin is. Hill comes out in P7. Sean Leisure is in P4. He lost 7 seconds on that pit stop because of taking tires. So I don't know if the fall off is going to justify taking those tires or not. We'll have to see where Cale can end up at the end of this race. We are just over halfway through now, coming up on 32 minutes in with 28 minutes to go.
I look at Cale's race time so far from lap 2 to lap 20, which were his first and last racing laps. Lap 2 was a 1:26.816. Lap 20 was a 1:26.691. So evidently the fall off is pretty much non-existent. Kel Pocock has actually set a 126 every lap, bar 1, 2, 3 occasions, one of which was a 27.001. So essentially all but 2 occasions he's been in the 26s. Sean Leisure will have a look at his lap times now, and it's a similar story, all 26s throughout the entire race. So I don't think the tyre fall off, unless it really jumps off a cliff in this last half hour, doesn't suggest that Kel Pocock will be able to make up those 8 seconds on the road here versus Sean Leisure. Of course, we could be wrong, but just judging by the fall off in the first half of the race, I think the no tyre call was the correct one.
And it seems like a good opportunity for me to gripe about the tire model, making that such an easy call to make of not taking tires. It should be a trade-off one way or the other, but it's just a pure loss when you're running the same times at the end of a 20-lap run as you were at the start of it. That's not how road courses should be, and I don't like it.
No, definitely takes some of the strategic element out of it. Doesn't always work, of course, especially in some of the higher powered cars and on different tracks, maybe more abrasive surfaces or more technical sections that can wear out tyres more. You will see different tyre strategies, but on the whole, I think there's 2 cars going off there. I saw Austin and Abnett as one of them, and was that Joe Francis? That's the fight for P6. They've both gone off into the gravel. Francis does bail into the pit lane. I do wonder what happened between those two as to why they both veered off into the kitty litter. We'll get a replay on the Robiler photography replay machine. This is, of course, all in front of Caleb Pocock, and they both just drop it at the same time. They both save it. But Caleb Pocock's going to take 2 freebies at the exact same time.
Going down the list of people that I can see that have pit and what they did, Sean Leisure obviously did not take tires. Kel Pocock did. Corey Abbott did. Joe Francis did not. Dominic Wright did. Don't have anyone else in the top 15 currently that has pit. Everyone else has still stayed out on track. That's I don't know, 9 drivers that have not pit in the top 15 yet. But, I think now would be a good time to go ahead and hear from some of our sponsors, take a short break, and then we'll be back to finish the race.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And we are back. 22 and a half minutes to go. Will, we had an incident happen just before we went to commercial. You want to walk us through what happened and let us know the call?
Yeah, we're having a look now. You see, just going into the keyhole, Pierce Hauser just drops it going into the corner. Doesn't hold the brakes as good as he probably should do. Going into that corner, collects Michael Harsack and Andrew Hardcastle in there. So a severe damage tally was issued to the 61 for having not held the brakes. You can see a slow-mo there. The car and the tyres just start to roll backwards there. Harsack nowhere to go. Is speared into the right rear of Andrew Hardcastle as well. So both those drivers kind of wiped out. Michael Harsack, basically done. He's going to lose a few laps in the pits with right front wheel damage. Andrew Hardcastle did a little 360, got back going again with no real consequence. Pierce Hauser, of course, took a bit longer to get going again. But this is one of those moments where communication on a road course between the drivers and race control is critical. I didn't see it. I was obviously broadcasting when I just heard in my ear Michael just alert me to the incident, so I had a look at it, and that's how. If he hadn't have told me, I would have been absolutely none the wiser. I did briefly consider a yellow, but I think Hardcastle got going quickly enough for just that 360, and Pierce wasn't far behind him. I don't think that would have constituted a yellow, and don't think it's worth disrupting the flow of the race as Kel Pocock goes past that wounded 24 that we just mentioned just a moment ago.
Yeah, the standard for a yellow in Elite's rules is 2 cars stopped on track, and Pierce Hauser was the only car that was really on track. Andrew was off in the grass. Hossack was able to more or less keep it rolling the entire time, so yeah, I think no caution there was definitely the right call.
We're looking now, Gavin Hibbs obviously yet to pit here, but has quite the lead over the rest of the field, 24 seconds ahead of Caleb Bakuma with just 20 minutes to go here. The interesting thing that we'll have to look at here is whether when Hibbs comes into the pits, whether he elects to take tyres or not. I would. Obviously, we have all the data up here that Gavin Hibbs does not have to hand. We seem it to be a pretty no-brainer move to not take tyres, as they don't really seem to be having enough fall-off to warrant taking tyres. But Hibbs might not know that, so that's what's going to make his pit stop still somewhat interesting, and we'll see where he will emerge on track once he is done with that pit stop. But right now, he is 24 seconds ahead and continuing to extend that gap in front. Might even end up being a whole pit stop ahead regardless.
Yeah, I think there's no risk of him losing the lead on a pit stop. I also don't think there's any chance he's going to take tires. He just ran on lap 28 a 26.0. Lap 27 was a 25.9. No one else in the field has run a 25 yet, and he just did it on 27 lap old tires. So I think, barring another mistake like his lap 1, stepping on himself in turn 1, I think Gavin probably has this one in the bag. We could have said that about you last season at Watkins Glen. So anything can happen.
Me. Whoa, Sean! Oh dear.
Oh, that's not going to help Sean. That's going to get Kale right back up onto him if it doesn't let him by. Not quite there yet, actually. Still a few seconds ahead of Cale Pocock, but that gives Cale the hope that he might need to get that second or net second place back. We'll see if where Caleb Pakemer comes out after he pits. He still has stayed out as well, along with Gavin Hibbs. And Harrison Talon up in 5th place currently.
Definitely watching an issue between Jacob Adams and Alec Daffin. Those two just banging doors going into turn 4. Jacob Adams managed to get that car rolling again pretty quickly, as does Alec Daffin. Just Alec Daffin, I think, got a bit squirrely on the braking. Also, many thanks to Sean Leisure for giving me a way out of talking about that Watkins Glen race that I was leading by like 30 seconds and then got wiped out of last season. I still maintain the fact that I think I was literally going to lap the field at that race, but oh well, we live and we learn. So,
speaking of lapping the field, there are currently 10 cars left on the lead lap, and Gavin Hibbs is only 7-ish seconds ahead or behind Austin and Abnett in 10th place, but he is coming down pit road now. He's going to lose a lot of that time, unlap a couple of cars here, but I don't think there's much risk of him not getting those cars back a lap down. We'll keep an eye on him to see if he takes those tires. I would expect it to be a fuel-only stop, though.
And this pulls into his pit stall. That is the case. Just fuel for the 96. And of course, with it being a pit stop later in the race, he's taking on less fuel as well, and has emerged from the pits still 35 seconds out in front. That gap now coming down somewhat, 34. I think the timing tower is slightly behind.
Yeah, it's going to net out to something
there
like
we go.
15. Yeah.
But still, that is quite some lead to be carrying with 15 minutes to go on a car that's now got cooler tyres, of course, having come down pit road, and with a much lighter fuel load. I'm expecting purple lap after purple lap from Gavin Hibbs. Not to jinx him, of course, but you'd have to say it's looking good for the 96 right now with just 15 minutes to go and he's 14 seconds out in front.
And he does not have Ray Bracey in this race. No offense to Ray Bracey, that's another callback to Watkins Glen. Ray doesn't do that kind of thing very often at all.
No, Ray's a good guy. He's, of course, if you follow Elite more closely, you'll know he obviously manufactures and produces the Quick Shifts series, which is essentially radioactive for the Cup series, which is always a good joke. He's a well-respected member of the community, and that Watkins Glen thing, we still laugh about it. So, yeah, no. But the Ray Bracey at Watkins Glen joke's always good fun to make. But Gavin Hibbs, with hopefully no such interference with less than 15 minutes to go now, should be looking clear for a victory. He needs to keep it between the white lines, keep it off the grass and out of the daisies, and he should be home free for a dominant victory, despite, of course, his lap 1, turn 1 incident, where he kind of dropped it going into the braking zone there.
That is the final car in the top 15 to make a pit stop. It's a pretty even split in those top 15, whether they took tires or not. There are 8 cars that did take tires. First being Kel Pocock, and then Corey Abbott, Dominic Wright, and then most people back from there. Gavin Hibbs, Sean Leisure, Caleb Pakemer, Bill Navier, Joe Francis, Austin Namnett all did not take tires on their stops. So they have gained effectively a free 7.5-ish seconds on the cars around them because of that.
That's definitely helped a couple drivers here. Sean Leisure obviously had his little off-track moment a few laps ago, but still able to hold second over Cal Pocock with the 2.5 second cushion, so that not taking tires definitely saving him there in the 49. Dylan Javier as well up to P5 as well, has got now a 3 second cushion back to Corey Abbott, so that's another place he's gained courtesy of not taking tires in the pits. So definitely strategy, one strategy looking to be more proficient than the other in this race, and with 13 minutes to go, it looks like it's going to be a walk-off really for the guys who elected not to take tyres. I'm just curious now. I mentioned I wanted purple laps out of Gavin Hibbs. Not quite the purple lap I was expecting, a 26.6, as he re-emerged back on track here with that lighter fuel load, but it's consistent enough. He is still right on the money with Sean Leisure, also around a 26.6. Was a good bit quicker than Cal Pocock with 27 flat last time, so Gavin Hibbs doesn't need to be setting purple laps for as much as it would be quite cool to really put his stamp on the race and take the fastest lap. It doesn't need to, just needs simply to bring it home. With 12 laps to go, he's focused on just the time ticking down now. 12 minutes, that's what, seven and a bit laps, so 7, maybe 8 laps when he gets to the white flag, depending on when the timer ticks down where he is on track. So it's all looking good for most of the top 10 drivers here. They're all kind of in their own bubble, bringing it home.
And just about everyone has at least a few seconds gap. The closest in the top 10 are Dominic Wright and Austin Nadnett, and that's still over a second gap there. Not a whole lot of battling going on at this point in the race. It's kind of coming down to your position is the pace that you have, which, I mean, that sounds like an obvious thing, but on other road courses or in other cars where tire wear is more of a factor, you also have tire management that affects that. But like we've talked about, we're not seeing much fall off here. So cars are just or drivers are just maintaining their pace through the run, and that kind of sorts them out naturally as it continues on. Which again, I'm not a fan of. We need that tire management, add an extra bit of strategy into this. But and it is what it is. Gavin Hibbs lapping Colbert once more. Now 6 laps down. Gavin has relapped up through 11. Justin Vandermeer is the last car on the lead lap, about 5 seconds ahead of Gavin. So we'll probably see that 10th place car lapped. I don't think we have enough time for Gavin to reach Harrison Talon in 9th. So we should end with 9 cars on the lead lap. But kind of have not a ton going on in these closing 10 minutes with how cars have kind of spaced themselves out. Sounds like there was an incident that happened. We'll wait for Will to get back and update us on what was going on with that. Sounds like Corey Abbott is out of the race. Not sure what happened with that. Do we have a replay of him, maybe, Nick? So going through his... Oh, Colbert just kind of runs out into him, loses that left front, and that's enough to retire the car. They will not repair a wheel that's broken off like that. So it's really bad luck for Corey. See, this shows a better angle of what happened. Looks like he was off track and was coming back on, and Corey just ran a little too wide. Wasn't necessarily expecting him to be on that exit curb. So bad luck for Corey. He was trying to make a push for the playoffs here after his win last week, but that is not going to help things. With the lower numbers here this week, that'll hurt a little less, but he still needed the points from a strong top 5 that he was looking to have as this race was running towards its conclusion. So bad luck for Corey. Gavin Hibbs still continuing his strong run after that lap 1 mistake. Kind of hasn't put a foot wrong since, and is just running away with this, almost 15 seconds over Sean Leisure currently. Go ahead and get a word from one of our series sponsors, DesignPing. DesignPing is a design agency that specializes in creating websites and digital content that not only look incredible, but also enable your business to outperform all your competitors. Make sure you check out designping.com to learn more. Is this a battle for position between Dave Carpenter and Frank? It is. Okay. These two cars are probably the closest two on track, and Nick is paying more attention to that than I am, as I had to check if they were even on the same lap. But they are kind of fighting for position here. It looks like Frank is a little bit quicker than Dave, but only about 1/10 of a second apart on that last lap, which is easily explained by just, I mean, when you're behind another car following them, it's very easy to kind of match your pace to them. You don't want to dive in too hard and potentially get in the back of them. Dave really closed up on Frank Foti into that last corner and has definitely gotten rid of any gap that was there. But we'll let this kind of continue to play out and see if Dave Carpenter can make a move happen. Will, you're back after taking a look at, I'm guessing, the incident with Corey Abbott and Colbert. Was there a call on that?
Yeah, it was really an unfortunate deal. I mean, obviously Colbert's been struggling all night. He was 6 laps down at the time of the incident, and he was just emerging off of the grass, coming back onto the track. Rejoined very safely, with no one really around him, and I looked from Corey's cockpit. He could see Colbert for a good amount of time, but obviously from that distance and with the closing rate, it's very difficult to judge the speed that Colbert had, or in this case did not have, as Corey probably couldn't tell that he was just coming back from a spin. So Corey Abbott's just taken his line as normal, and all of a sudden has found himself into the back of the 17. But I looked at the 17, I don't think he did really anything wrong, for as much as it was an unfortunate deal in terms of Corey coming up on a slow moving car when he did. Cole stayed right to the left hand side of the track after having emerged off the grass, didn't really get too much in anyone's way, and I think was going to stick to the outside of the corner had that contact not happened. So I didn't feel it right to tally the 17 really for that, so it ended up being a no call. But definitely a really unfortunate incident, especially for Corey as well. Was running well inside the top 10 and just got his right front, his left front just torn completely off, and he's now out of the race. Will probably finish on 24th.
Going with what's on screen here, Cale Pocock has gotten to the back of Sean Leisure. The previous lap, Sean ran a 128, had a bit of a rough lap, and that let Cale catch up. And then on this lap that they just finished, we saw Sean Leisure get loose through one of those corners, and that almost let Cale get alongside him. Didn't quite make it. He locks up into the hairpin there, and that does let Cale Pocock get around him. He almost gets on the throttle a little bit too hard in his rush to complete that pass, but he is there. He's got the spot in second place, and thought he was going to go more defensive there into this braking zone. Did not. That's going to let Sean Leisure get that inside. If he can hold on to the outside here, he should be able to hold on. Sean stays on the outside through that. Now he's got the inside. This is a good battle between these two cars. They've been getting towards each other for a while now, and side by side for like 4 or 5 corners there. Sean does get back around, but he has been making more mistakes than Cale, so he's got to keep things together for the next 3-4 minutes, probably 3 laps, I would guess, the end here. And he's going to want to keep that spot over Cale Pocock, but Cale is going to make him fight for it.
Definitely will, and I think this is a case of execution, really, now, between these guys. Connor Thompson, someone getting in the way of Sean Leisure there. Sean a little bit loose. Cale's now going to come back at him. But Hopefully Sean Leisure doesn't again lock up. There's just a couple more mistakes out of Sean Leisure than there have been out of Kel Pocock, and that's kind of been the difference. But Sean Leisure's done well to still keep the 6 behind, but this is a fight that's going to really kick off in these last couple minutes here. Really only 2 laps to go, so Pocock's opportunities to make it happen really are dwindling here. I think if it sort of comes to next time we're in a similar sort of situation, I think he's going to have to start getting late on the brakes and get a bit more audacious with just what he's willing to do to get that extra position.
Yeah, he really needed to be more defensive into that corner at the end of the straight last lap. He just left that door wide open for Sean, and Sean didn't hesitate to go right through it. It did set up a very entertaining sequence of corners for us to watch, but that's not a situation you want to be in as a driver, especially when you just completed that pass. You got to play defensive there, keep them from getting alongside. You don't want it to look like interesting racing for the people watching, because interesting racing is racing a lot harder than you want to when you're supposed to be in front of the other car.
Yeah, definitely, but I think now it's going to be 2 to go this time, with Hibbs being quite a bit ahead here. Kel Pocock still has a couple more opportunities. He's going to look to the inside now of Sean Leisure again, see if he can force Leisure into a mistake. I saw the back end kick out just a little bit, and it's going to go way wide. Kel Pocock's going to be back alongside him. He's going to get back in front. Leisure again with another crucial mistake, and that might be what secures P2 for Kel Pocock now, with just a couple laps to go.
Yeah, Kel pulled the same kind of look to the inside intimidation move that Hibbs did, and it worked almost the exact same way. Sean had that little lockup, but Kel missed the apex, left that lane open for Sean, and they're back side by side through the sequence of corners, and Sean gets back around him. Kel has got to not leave that lane open, because Sean is clearly not going to hesitate to take any opening that he can get. He's going to want to hold on to that second place. You don't want to lose effectively best of the rest here, and that's what these two are fighting for.
Definitely, it's crucial points here, and Sean Leisure getting back around Kel Pocock, and that's probably going to infuriate Kel Pocock somewhat, as he really wants his position now, and he's almost going to drop it hard opposite lock there. They're both in the grass, and I think just a bit too much from Kel Pocock, and he's going to need a big final lap here if he wants to take this second place away from Sean Leisure. This is the fight to be watching on the track at the minute, with Hibbs way out in front. He's got one last big opportunity into the braking zone going into turn number 4 at the end of the keyhole straight here. Kel Pocock too far back to really go for a dive. Now needs to wait for a mistake from Sean Leisure in the final part of the lap here.
And this is the white flag lap, so this is the last lap. Gavin Hibbs is going to get the win here. He's got a 16-second lead. He could go off into the grass, still come back on, and still win it. But these two have just a handful of corners left. Kayla's running out of time. Sean just has to keep together another 2-3 corners, and he's got that second place. He's just hugging that inside line all the way through this long sweeping right-hander. One more left on the straight. Kale gets a run, but not enough time. Sean Leisure is going to take second, Kale third. Very good racing between those two. Very clean. As far as contact, plenty of mistakes made on both sides, but definitely made those final few laps more interesting for us to watch. But Gavin Hibbs, dominant performance after a lap 1, turn 1 mistake, comes right back within the first half hour and takes that lead back and just controls this race from there on.
Definitely, in the fight between Dominic Ryan, Austin and Avnet, it's just going to go just about the way. The 12 just up the line, only a couple of tenths separating them. Dominic Wright takes P7 ahead of Austin and Avnet, but a dominant performance from Gavin Hibbs, as you mentioned. Only 9 cars actually finished on the lead lap. Harris and Talon, 76 seconds behind Gavin, will cross the line just about now. And that will be it for the 60 minutes of Mid-Ohio. With a walk-off victory for Gavin Hibbs, I'm sure he'll be very proud of himself, with, as you mentioned late in that turn 1 lap 1 incident, might have made things a bit more difficult, but perfected the strategy, and yeah, definitely a well-deserved victory.
Yeah, and we're going to go ahead and get these interviews with these top 3 finishers underway. We'll have you start things off with Hale, third place finisher.
5, I arced it too high, and I saw you send it in. I'm like, I'm not gonna wreck myself.
Hi, Kale. We pulled you
Hi,
in.
Kale.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Lol. So, Kale, P3, had a big fight with Sean there. Unfortunately, you're on the wrong end of it, but how was that night for you overall?
I mean, that's a really good night. I needed that after the last week. It's been not too great, and I needed a clean race, so it felt really good to get a podium, and that was a fun battle with Sean almost the entire race.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously Gavin Hibbs kind of walked away with it, and then they're about 15.5 seconds ahead of you both. But taking the race as a whole package, do you think it had anything for Hibbs at any point? Was there anything you think you could have done differently to potentially have a shot at it?
No, he was way too fast and way too consistent. I had nothing for him, but I thought I could get Sean. I kind of got hung up behind a lap car entering the pits, and then some cars that didn't pit when I got fresh tires. But I got to him at the end. I was just trying to be clean and not make any mistakes like last week, and just get a good points day. So I probably might have been able to get second, but I wasn't gonna push the issue.
Yeah, definitely. But still a good night, as mentioned, in points. Looking ahead to the next few tracks in the schedule: Richmond, Kern County, and Nashville Super Speedway, the last 3 in the regular season. How do you sum up your chances at those 3 tracks?
I like Nashville. I don't really know how Kern is going to race, and generally I suck at Richmond, so hopefully I can figure out this car at Richmond.
Definitely. Well, a solid night for you, Cal. Any sponsors or partners you want to thank for getting the podium for car number 6 again?
Just everybody at Abbott, and shout out to them for having me on the team and helping out, and hopefully we'll get them a win soon.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Cal. Congratulations on a solid podium finish. Hopefully you can build on that. We'll be talking to you very, very soon. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have our second place finisher, Sean Leisure. Sean, this is Alayton up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah.
So this race started out pretty favorably for you, with Gavin going off in turn 1, but you think you could have held on any better over him, or was he kind of inevitable here tonight?
I just talking to him right after he passed me. I went in and pitted, and after I pitted, we were running pretty much the same times until I completely missed my braking marker going into I think that's turn 3 down the backstretch, the long backstretch, and I completely missed it and drove it into the gravel and almost creamed the barrier. So, and then after that, the car was just stupid loose, and I guess I just didn't want to finish second tonight. So I gave Kale so many opportunities, but somehow fought back. We had a good race. That was fun. But yeah, I don't know. Gad was in a league of his own, so even if I didn't make my mistake, I feel like he still would have shown us what's up. So I thought, I thought I might get maybe I'll finally get a win this season, but just another runner-up for the year.
Yeah, you had we got the tail end of you going off into the gravel there, but don't worry, we didn't go back and show the full replay of it. But we did see into that hairpin a couple times, both Gavin and Hale looking to your inside. That would make you kind of overshoot the entry a little bit, lock up the tires, and just kind of slide through it. Was that something that you were noticing yourself doing, or was it just kind
Yes.
of something that just happened?
Yes, and every time I tell myself don't do that, and then I do it again. So, I mean, I did it twice within the last like 3 laps, and so I mean, it made for a good battle at the end, but it's not really what I wanted. So, it is what it is, though. I mean, I haven't ran this track in Lord knows how many years, so I just kind of hopped on and did some practice and was relatively competitive. And to get another P2 at the another road, me and Gavin Fish won too at Red Bull Ring, so get another one of those. Just another good finish. It's feels pretty good though.
Yeah, you definitely had the pace here tonight, even with those mistakes. Like Kale passed you a couple times out of the hairpin, but just in the, you get side by side with him into those S's, and it was very exciting racing to watch, but very impressive racing to get back around him both times like that.
Yeah, I know the second time he left the door open and I just kind of shot my nose in there. I know he was trying to open his entry up, but got a little aggressive there. But yeah, no, we never touched. We're inches from each other. It was good racing. So this is a fun, it's a technical track. It's fun. So in a good race like that, just regardless of it being due to my mistake, if you're having a good race like that, it's a good time.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a mistake, at least you could recover from it. Before I should go, any sponsors you want to thank or shows you want to give?
I just want to say thank you to Elite Racing League, all the admins, y'all for putting this on. Have a lot of fun coming out here on Tuesdays. So hopefully we can get a full race together one of these days, and I can have a good solid race and actually be able to contend for a win, because I feel like there's been numerous missed opportunities this year, including last week. So we'll see what we can do at, I think Kern and Richmond's next, I think. So
Yep.
see what happens.
All right, sounds good. Well, you've got 2 chances next week, so good luck, and we'll see you then.
All right, we'll see if I can choke away another one. Thank y'all.
All right, and now we will hand our winner, Gavin Hibbs, back over to William White.
Gavin, it's William in the booth. You got a copy?
Oh, hey, what's up, guys?
Hello. So, you dropped it on lap 1, and we all thought, oh, it's over. Gavin Hibbs bottled it. And then you win by 16 seconds anyway. Please tell us how. What cheats?
It was all cheats. I guess my car at turn 1 decided, let's make this race harder for you than it already is going to be. You know, Mid-Ohio is such a very difficult racetrack to get down, and doesn't matter what car really. Just the blinding corners and the big difference in elevation really makes it one of the trickier ones in North America. But got into turn 1 there. I was kind of a little bit worried. I was trying to try a little bit of outbreak Sean, because I thought he was going to go to the inside at turn 1, but he didn't, and I just kind of stepped on my blank. You know, I can't. But, I thought it was over too, but you know, running laps after and just seeing how fast I was, and I'm like, okay, as long as I don't have any other trouble, then we'll be fine. And then when it came to passing Sean, I had a moment there in the keyhole where his rear's locked up and my rear's locked up, and I thought we were both wrecked and out of it, and Kale was gonna win. But great save by both of us. Just very glad to get the win after what happened at the start.
Yeah, and of course that's a second road course victory in a row in the series. So you've swept them both for now. You've got Lime Rock Park in the playoffs. So do you think, excuse me, do you think potentially we could see car number 96 go 3 for 3 in the playoffs, in the road courses, pardon?
I like to think so, but you know, Lime Rock being a free track to the service, you know, it's been a free track since God knows how long. So I expect everybody to have somewhat experience at this track. But I feel confident again in my road course ability that we be able to get it done, but only time will tell.
Definitely, and of course, second win puts you on course to make the playoffs here in the development series with only 3 races to go in the regular season. So you'd imagine we were making a playoff push. How do you rate your chances, though, for the rest of the season, though, as you've reached the halfway point here?
Oh, it's gonna be tough. I haven't really thoroughly looked at the playoff schedule yet. I know Michigan and Daytona are the last 2 races of the season, and there's anybody could win with this car, and I just don't feel comfortable with this car on those ovals yet. Like the mile and a half tracks and bigger, but we're gonna try our damnedest to get a Strictly Stock championship in the Elite ARCA series, but like I said, only time will tell, and hopefully we'll stay out of trouble like we did the first couple weeks of the season.
Absolutely. Well, a walk-off win for car number 96. Any sponsors or partners you want to thank for getting that 96 in victory lane again?
Again, thanks Strictly Stock. I have a great group of guys that I surround myself with that we're kind of like a family over there, but I also want to shout out or give an apology to Corey there with what happened with him and my teammate Cole. Definitely a weird situation there. I'm gonna probably have a talk with Cole here after we're done with the interview, but shout out Joe as well. He had a good run considering where his qualifying and where he started and how little practice he had to get up to 6. Great run for him, but I think that's a good result for the team as a whole.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again on a second victory of the season, Gavin. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully we'll be speaking to you a few more times this season.
Yeah, thank you guys for the broadcast. Can't wait to watch it back.
All right, that was our winner, Gavin Hibbs. So, final thoughts, Will. How was this race for you?
I was thoroughly entertained. I mean, obviously we had sort of the race long, well, not really race long. It was kind of a foregone conclusion after sort of half an hour or so. But Gavin Hibbs managed to fight his way back through the field in the way that he did with that incident right at the beginning of the race. Still wins by 15 seconds. Hugely impressive performance. Will give him a lot of momentum. Talk about potentially sweeping all the road courses, as won the first 2, has only got Lime Rock Park to complete the set, as it were. So that'll be something to look forward to in a few weeks' time. Sean Leisure and Kel Pocock's battle was really thoroughly entertaining. There was a good bit of drama. Corey Abbott's incident with Colbert as well, that sparked off some fireworks. Definitely would have been frustrating for Corey as he was running in the top 10, but there were fights all up and down the field. A couple incidents obviously we don't want to be seeing, but I was definitely thoroughly entertained throughout all of that, and I think that sets us up well to end off the regular season with some high quality racing.
Absolutely. Nick, any thoughts from you? Yeah, I definitely hope we see some changes to the ARCA tire model on road courses in particular. There needs to be fall off through a run. You shouldn't be setting purple laps 30 laps into the race on a road course of all places. But yeah, as much as you don't want to see bad things happen to a driver, I think that turn 1 incident with Gavin Hibbs made this a lot more interesting as a race and kind of definitely added to the excitement factor. And yeah, this was a pretty good race, especially the first half. Things kind of slowed down for the second half until the final few laps with Sean Leisure and Kale. That was some of the best side-by-side racing I think we've seen on a road course all season here in ARCA. So definitely want to give props to those two. But yeah, that's gonna about wrap it up for us here tonight. Of course, the full race results are there on the screen. You can go back and look at those if you would like. And on behalf of William White and Nick Masse, thanks for joining us on the Elite Racing Network, and have a good night.